Broadway Library. Thanks so much for coming out. Before we get started, I want to tell you about a couple upcoming programs. Our next Mindful Matters, so this is a series that we do in conjunction with the League of Women Voters of the Perrysburg area. Our next one will be on March 26th at 7 p.m. and we'll be talking about firefly conservation. So if you love lightning bugs and you want to learn how to see more of them, come to that talk. And then at the beginning of March, we're going to have an exhibit by local artist Rob Vannetveld. He makes these amazing giant paintings on drop cloth. He'll be doing a series of whales. It's going to be spectacular. So we're doing a lot of whale-based programming. And we're going to have an artist reception where you can meet Rob, you can talk to him about the paintings. And we'll also be doing some live readings of Moby Dick, like passages from Moby Dick. So if you're a fan of Melville, you can come and hear that as well. That will be on March 27th at 7 p.m. I'm very pleased to introduce Mayor Tom Mackin. He grew up in Avon Lake, Ohio, the fifth of 9 children. After graduating from Avon Lake High School, he attended Muskingum College. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree, majoring in accounting with minors in economics and communication. He is an honor graduate of the University of Toledo College of Law and was in private practice for 25 years until 2015, when he joined the Lucas Metropolitan Housing Authority as its chief legal officer. He is a member of the Ohio, Toledo, and American Bar Associations, and this is his last term as mayor of Perrysburg.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Natalie. I'm sure everybody's going to be tired of reading. We'll be glad they won't have to hear that bio anymore. I also want to thank the League for having this event. I think it's a great opportunity each year to kind of report where the city is and where we're going. And it's a great community forum to just kind of see where the community has said it wants to go. So on behalf of myself, this is my last one of these, and I hopefully they have been informative. They provided a path for what we said we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and then what we're going to do next. So hopefully today's conversation, I hope it is a conversation, will be very similar to my past experience. Before we get started, I do want to thank a couple people who are here who have helped make this presentation and have also helped keep me in line as the mayor. Marie Dunn is our public information officer. She's put all the information together and generally makes sure I don't screw up when I speak to the public. And then Joe Fawcett, our city administrator, has helped get the information and also has a more difficult task of keeping both me and council in line. So I want to thank both of them for their hard work. So this is basically been billed as the State of the City speech. So the state of the city is, I would describe it as strong, and hopefully you would agree. And when a business is doing well and it's in a strong financial position, strong economic position, it's not a time to kind of retrench and bury your head in the sand. It's a time for opportunity. It's a time to go forward. So we're focusing on strategic initiatives, which we've been establishing in the second term. As you will see, we're going to invest in our future, where we're going as a community, and to make sure that things are better than when we left them. We're going to strengthen the team. You'll see, and I'll talk about this, we have done a lot to make sure that we have the best quality, best trained police, fire, and entire staff. And then lastly, to improve the quality of life and customer service are things that you do when you're in a strong business position. So that's kind of the framework of where we're going for this conversation today. Before I get started on what exactly we've done in the last year and what we're going to do, several years ago, the city staff worked to develop a mission. And I think it's always important that that doesn't just sit on a shelf. We've made sure that doesn't sit on a shelf. We put it on coffee mugs and gave coffee mugs to everybody. So all the staff has a coffee mug and sees this every day. The mission is to provide and maintain the highest quality of life for our community. And the vision is to the city of Perrysburg, through responsible growth and public engagement, is committed to being a thriving and welcoming community for all. And how we're going to do that, I'm not going to read our core values other than to identify them. Dedication, integrity, professionalism, service, and respect. And hopefully that's what you experience when you go to a city building, when you attend a city council meeting, when you do anything where you're interacting with city staff. So that's our framework for what we're going to talk about. The first thing I'm going to talk about is economic development. You might recognize this field. It's famous for a foxtail barley, if you'll remember a couple years ago, the foxtail barley. It's also familiar in that the city just went through the process of rezoning it from residential to commercial so that we can have development on this property that is commercial. So basically this is Costco, there's a ditch, and this is Costco is right where we're basically sitting. So that is part of our economic development, and that's something we hope we're working on with the developer to bring some economic development. And it's all been in the papers that it was Top Golf-like event or facility, and we met with him and are working with him. So, but the more important thing I think is it was a unanimous choice of council at the city's administration's recommendation that this be zoned commercial. We wanted to make sure that we are business friendly and that we're working to make sure that businesses feel they can and will develop in Perrysburg. So just in the last year, we did have 80 new home starts. We had 392 multifamily home starts and total permits over 1,000. We also had a significant number of projects that were not just residential homes. And I think it's important to note that a lot of these projects, Schutz Container and some of the other projects, are businesses that continue to expand and invest in the community just in the last year. Because one of the things we know the community has talked about is we need to expand economic development. Well, we've been working with that. We've been working to attract businesses and to attract development and expand what we already have. Because one part of economic development that doesn't always get listed here is that the small mom and pop businesses that own the companies that are in town, live here, invest here, coach here, all those companies are important parts of the economic picture as well. They're not listed as big projects, but they are certainly just as important. And we've been working to try and make sure that they're getting the assistance and attention they need so that they can be successful. Over the last, since I've been mayor, so since 2018, there's been a number of substantial projects. As you'll notice that both Mercy and ProMedica have had big expansions and really taken their facilities to another level. ProMedica has built an entire new building. Mercy's expanded its building. And then if you drive on Echo Junction Road, you'll see Ohio Cat and Peterbilt expansion. Schutz Container, in addition to the expansion of last year, previously had an expansion of $9.5 million. So while the city continues to grow residentially, it also continues to be a place that's attractive to business. And that's important. Businesses ask us when they're coming into town, they ask simply, how's this community doing? They look at other communities and compare Perrysburg to other communities that are struggling to attract residents, struggling to attract businesses. We're not having that problem. And that's because of the foundation we've laid in working with the council and with prior administrations to make sure that we're business friendly, but we're also have a high standard that you have an expectation that when you come to Perrysburg, you're going to do something quality. And these are all very much quality companies that have invested in Perrysburg and continue to invest in Perrysburg. So we're very excited about these successes, and we hope to have more going forward. We know that that's something that is an issue that needs to be addressed, and we've been planning for it and are working on it. And we know that when we did the land use plan several years ago, which would have been 2023, 23, the land use plan laid out a way forward to develop along State Route 25 an economic corridor. So we anticipate and are working on trying to make sure that that becomes someplace where businesses, both medical facilities and other types of industrial uses get developed along that property. That takes time, that takes commitment, that takes working with Wood County's economic development and the Port Authority to make sure that the businesses that can come to these facilities know we are out there, that the land is available, why we're attracted, and then to bring them in. So that's something we've been working on and we continue to work on. We also have, as I said before,
we have a real opportunity to improve the quality of life of our residents. And one of that we know is that every study we've done says we want to have access to parks, we want to have access to walkability, we want to have access to the river. So the city has, over time, developed a multi-use path development project where we apply for grants, get the grants, and then build the multi-use paths. Now, it's kind of hard to see from the back, but who has walked along the multi-use path along from Riverside Park? We just finished another phase of that. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. And now we've already broken ground. So we just finished. For a long time, this was not finished. And we were walking through people's backyards. This is now completed, and we just started breaking grounds through Orleans Park to connect to this multi-use path that already exists. So it will then connect to the path across the river, and you can bike all the way across the river. We're very excited that this has been something that's been in the works for a very long time. So the path that was just finished this last fall had been something that had been discussed by councils since I was started on council in 1998. That was something that just took a long time to happen. In the last several years, we developed a comprehensive plan for the use of Orleans Park, and that multi-use path has been part of that. So this is the first phase of that plan. So these things take time, they take planning, and so we did it a couple of years ago. We got council's approval that this was a good plan, and now we're in the process of starting it. So it's really a process of connecting, and I think that it will continue to attract people to the riverfront, which is something that a lot of residents have talked about. And also, you can ride your bike to downtown and use that as a way to enjoy the center of the community, which this community has said is important, is that downtown be a place that attracts people to come visit. Which smoothly, because Murray's got this well laid out, transitions to downtown development project. We've been talking about this for several years. As you know, we've been talking about developing from the railroad tracks to that front street and making it much more user-friendly, making it ADA compliant, accessible, and kind of giving it an upgrade. We know that this was, who had been to downtown Perrysburg between 1990 and 2000, and what was really down there? Not a whole lot. It wasn't very busy. The shops were struggling. And it was something that was a focus of when I first got on council. So we revitalized it in 2000, early 2000s, early aughts. I get to use that one last time. And then, but now it's been 25 years. And it's looking a little worse for wear. If you walk down there, you see broken bricks. You see some other things that need to be upgraded. The trees some of them have died. So we've been in the process of designing it and upgrading it and then making improvements that will make it more attractive. We know our competitors, our neighbors and friends in other communities have upgraded theirs. We want to do something similar, except for Maumee. You don't want to do anything similar. But we do know that we want to revitalize it. So we want to make it ADA compliant. We want to do some of the things that make it as friendly as possible, as walkable as possible, accessible as possible, which is best for businesses, best for the community, and best for all of our, hopefully the businesses that are going to be there. So we anticipate this being something we work on, but we found out that Columbia Gas has also got to do some work down there. So one of the things we did when we've been through this process for several years, one of the things we did when we were doing phase one, which is from north of the tracks, is we had several public meetings and we talked to the community on several different occasions. And the plan is much better because we got community input. And as not surprisingly, when we did put it out there, it got a lot of attention. And a lot of residents came and had a lot of suggestions. We've incorporated a lot of those suggestions, and they've really made some improvements. Some residents also said, well, why don't you take it from the railroad tracks to Indiana Avenue? And we thought, that's a really good idea. It'll increase the number of parking spaces, which parking is always an issue when you're talking about downtown now, which is a good problem to have. That means the businesses are getting a lot of attention, getting a lot of use. So there'll be increased parking, and we have to make some improvements to this intersection anyway. So in conjunction with that, in the 2025 construction season, we're going to start that phase. So that's going to be done this year, and then we're going to do phase 2 construction season in 2026. I won't be the mayor then, but I'll just be harassing people to make sure that gets accomplished, because I do think we want to get that done. And it's going to be a really nice addition. As you can see from the first part, more parking, more trees, just kind of a friendlier feel. And we think that that will be helpful. And then the second, and this will be right outside the library here, and we think that'll be a nice addition to the entire, and make downtown, or uptown, who calls it uptown, from Indiana all the way to the front street. Instead of kind of stopping at the tracks, it'll go all the way through. So we're very pleased that with the community's input, that has led to a better project, and we think it'll be an entirely good project for downtown. We're very excited to be actually starting that, because you've probably heard it in 2 or 3 prior speeches. So we also, as I talked before about our team, one of the things we've tried to do, and Joe's been a real critical part of this, is getting input up the chain, getting ideas from the team, and making sure that they get their ideas are incorporated into what we're doing. So the city's grown, and we've through the process, we have a new 8th snowplow route, which started last year, but this year we're expanding that with additional garbage routes. So we do continue to grow. We need to provide better services. We need to provide them as smoothly, as cost effectively as possible. And we think that the input we've received from our team is really going to make a difference on doing that more efficiently and in a better way. We also have traffic is becoming an issue. We get questions about certain parts of town, certain intersections. Front Street and East Boundary getting a lot of questions. The lights near Costco on 25 and Eckel Junction probably have had some questions about why only so many cars get to go through, turning left at a certain time of day, and those kind of things. So we have actively engaged the community and acted a consultant to review our transportation, not just cars and vehicles, but other forms of transportation as well, because we do want to encourage more biking, more walking, more things that make this a community as opposed to driving from point A to point B. So this was an ongoing project, and as you can see, when we had a public forum, just like I talked about earlier, it was well attended, lots of people with lots of questions, lots of ideas, and I think that's a real credit to Perrysburg. And I would say, as mayor, I've seen other mayors been in forums where they talk about nobody comes to these events, and they try and get people's input to solicit recommendations. I really just say I don't have that problem, because we always have people in Perrysburg who are coming, who are vested in their community, and they want to convey their thoughts and ideas to make it a better place. So just like tonight, which I appreciate you're all being here, and I appreciate that you care about the community and that you're committed to its success. Other city projects, public utilities is not something you often hear about, but it is really something that's very vital. When you turn the water on, it needs to work. When you flush your toilet, it needs to work. And it needs to go to where it's supposed to go in a way that it's supposed to go. So we have worked on and are working on several things to improve how these lines, which are, some of them are rather dated and old, and so we're relining and repairing some of them. We also are working on better ways to collect the information. Given today's technology, You don't read your water meter by having somebody go up in your backyard and look at the number, or even just driving by. We can set it up now with an antenna to do this all electronically. So we're hoping that this will be a little bit more efficient, more accurate, and also lead to some efficiencies and cost savings, because we don't need as many people, we don't need as many crews, we don't need as much, and it won't take as much time. So hopefully more efficiency and a more effective way to read your meter, to send you the bill, and hopefully to have you pay so we can provide the services. I would also say one of the things we focused on in the last several years, and you really can't tell too much from this picture other than the space of the area they're working in. We have hired a person regarding safety compliance, and to make sure that when we work in our maintenance facilities, when we work on jobs like this, that the team is safe and they're trained how to make sure it's safe, so there won't be like this won't collapse or anything like that. So that's been a real kind of behind the scenes focus. But when I talked about before, making sure that our staff is the best qualified and the best trained, those are the kind of things that also improve the quality of their work environment. And we're very pleased that we're able to do those kind of things, and we're able to focus on those kind of things so we can keep and retain staff. The wastewater treatment plant is very exciting information about how much we treated and how much went into the river. But I think the biggest focus, in case you can't read it, is that our assistant manager, Matt Hess, obtained his Class 4 EPA WW operating certificate. So that makes us one of the few wastewater treatment plants in the state to have 2 Class 4 operators. It was quite a process for Matt. It's really something we like to brag about, because one of the things we have really tried to do is make sure that we empower staff and make sure that our staff is the best trained. This was a very tedious and difficult process. The other part of it is having somebody like Matt get that certificate. Those are the type of jobs, there are fewer people going into the business. And so a lot of municipalities and a lot of wastewater treatment plants are just picking each other off, trading each other, buying somebody from a different community who's got experience to come work for them. And so that depleted number of people means it's that much more important to make sure that the people you have are properly trained, and that they feel like they want to stay where they are. And a matter of fact, consistent with what I was just talking about, Owens has started a program to provide training to younger people to get into this, to get the certificates, to get into this, the licensure, to get in this process. We've been a facility that they've used to take their students and to have their students see what the operations look like and to get engaged in it. I think that's something else that I think is important as a community. We want to invest not just in our staff, but in the future. And we've been working with Owens as part of that. So that's another thing that you don't see much about, you don't hear much about, but I think it's really something that I know that Matt and his team are excited about, and so are we. So we're going to continue to expand that facility. As I've said several times, we continue to grow as a community. So we're going to need to construct new digesters, which are these big tanks right there and over here. And so that we can make sure that we have the facilities to provide the services we need to you as the customer. So you also, hopefully, who has gone to our new city website? Who thinks it's way better than our old one? It is way better. It's easy enough that I can use it and I can find things. It used to be kind of difficult to find things on the page. They were buried in places that were difficult to find, even if you use the common sense search. Marie has worked really hard this year to get this up and operational and user-friendly, and it is very user-friendly. And if you have not seen it, please check it out. And I would also say one of the things we've talked about as an administration is making sure that we provide information to the community, that we're transparent as possible. So, Marie has done a really good job putting things out on social media and kind of updating the community of what's going on and how it's going to go. So if you don't follow us on social media, please do so. We don't pay her by the number of clicks but it is something that I think helps us communicate with you. So please do that. Police and fire is always something that's a core function of what we do. I mean, it really is very much a core function. So in last year, 17% decrease in crime compared to 2023, and our response time decreased by 3%. We continue to also hire new police officers, train new police officers, and make sure some of the most successful things we do as a community is for our outreach, or this is the police academy, and other things where our police and fire are out engaged in the community. I think that's a very important thing, so that our community sees police and fire not just as coming in their worst day, but they see us and we see that you in good days, and we appreciate all the work they do. It's really been a good outreach program, but also the police, it's another example of a way to engage them as part of the process.
I would like to speak to the Citizens Police Academy if you've not taken advantage of that. As a participant, it's a 10-week course, once a week for 2 hours, and it's well worth your time. You learn so much about how they operate, how they recruit, train, the things that they do. It's an excellent program.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yes, it's an excellent program, and it also, the one thing that's really shocking is how much multitasking a police officer has to do at any one time. There are people talking, things you should be typing, things you have to observe. It is a very stressful, very difficult job every single day, and it helps, I think, show the community what they're doing. For police and fire also are very engaged in some public outreach. This is from the open house. Always a big event, always a very enjoyable. The police and fire like to show off their stuff and what they do, and they get into police and fire, or fire because you want to work a fire hose. Well, you can't start too young to do that. It really is something that I think, again, connects the community to the fire department and gives the community an opportunity to kind of behind the scenes. Again, it's also a chance for them to see them not in a stressful work environment where there's a problem and they have to deal with something. So we've done a lot of these. I think they've been very successful, and that's something I know that is going to continue. As consistent with other things we've talked about, the fire and EMS incidents continues to go up. We had last year 690 fire incidences and almost 3,000 EMS instances. That is a lot of calls, and we have not traditionally expanded our staff to address these concerns because the growth has been kind of by little. Also, if you recall, in 2018, we built a fire station. One of the conditions of that the council at the time said was, when we build this, we're not automatically filling it with new people until we pay that debt down and we can afford new people. Well, we paid off the debt in a very timely manner by the end of 2022. And so that large, if you saw earlier, it's about $9.8 million station. We paid it off within 3 or 4 years. And now, because of those savings, because we're not paying interest and some other things, and because the calls continue to go up, we are addressing the need that we need to hire more people. So our staff is going to grow in the fire department. We've got a new deputy fire chief that we plan on hiring. We plan on hiring additional firefighter, paramedic. And we also plan on hiring 3 firefighter paramedics. So we've expanded. We continue to, we have now a very solid, robust, kind of a capital plan for both equipment and for employee hires, so that we will be able to plan out, budget, and work with council to make sure that these positions that need to be filled, so that we continue to provide the highest quality of service that the residents expect in this community, that we'll be able to do that in the next several years. So that strategic planning is what I talked about earlier, why I think the city's condition is strong, because we have a plan, we're sticking to the plan, and we're now in the process of going to be able to implement it this year and going forward. The city, who has been in the city hall in the last several years, who's kind of seen it, it has served the city well, but it's a little dated. It's a little, my law director is in a closet. The windows don't always work. Some of it's cold in the winter and hot in the summer. It isn't very ADA compliant. It generally also is very difficult to have Wi-Fi work in the building. If you've been inside, it's a very brick fortress-like structure, both inside and out. So one of the things we've been working on, I think when I gave my State of the City report last year, I said that we were in the process of looking at making improvements to City Hall and also possibly buying a building. The day I think I did last year, we bought this building, or we put the purchase agreement in place to buy the building, which is the Mercy. It used to be the Mercy building on the corner of that's Front Street, and this is East Boundary right here. It's also next to, from the city's point of view, it's also has value because the utilities facility is right next to it, so it already has some connections to the city. So we plan on renovating that. We're in the process of getting those plans now. We plan on renovating in the fall of 2006. And one of the things we have heard from residents is that there really isn't. We've been improving our online technology. You can get forms online, you can submit things online, but we don't have one-stop shopping. You can't go to one building and get all the services you need from the city. Our outward-facing departments are not that accessible. I mean, nobody really wants to be able to go to tax, but when you need to go to tax, you should be able to get there easily in a way that's convenient to you. Our tax department is currently in the basement of City Hall. Those employees would like to also see the sun sometime. So we are in the process of moving tax, planning and zoning, and utility billing to this facility, which will then give us the chance to expand, redo City Hall to make council chambers more user-friendly, to expand some other departments. I think the only office that isn't being expanded is the mayor's. Is that fair? Yeah, that's what I thought. That won't be my problem either. So, but it would be a nice addition. It'll make it more. There's no. Right now, it is difficult for some people to get to City Hall and to get inside City Hall, and it is where the people's business is being done, and it should be accessible to everyone without any difficulty or strain. It also should be a room that can be used. So if we do have something controversial where we don't have enough space, that we can set it up that it can be seen through technology or something else, where we're going to make it so the community knows what's going on. Because I think one of the most important things is transparency in government. And that's certainly something that the residents of this community expect. They also expect really nice parks. That has been something that certainly COVID affirmed to us, that the parks are important. And I would say that this is a real issue as far as quality of life for the community. If you just saw Perrysburg Township had an opportunity to expand how much money they were spending on the parks, they said they weren't in a financial condition to do that. I certainly understand that situation, but you know where residents of Perrysburg Township are going to probably go to use parks. They're probably going to go to our parks. But that's okay. We want them to be accessible to everyone. and we want them to be a place where people can come together and enjoy. Who has seen the new sculpture walk at Woodlands Park? Okay. Pretty amazing, pretty cool. I think it's a really nice addition. I have walked there and pulled up there, and there are people from all over Northwest Ohio and Michigan coming to see that. It is really someplace that attracts people to the community. Now, they may not be staying overnight or some other thing, but they certainly are coming to our parks because they've heard about it. So that's really something I think is pretty neat. I think that that's also kind of gives Perrysburg another place where we stand out. Public art wasn't something that was big on my radar when I first got elected as mayor, but I really think it's one of those things that makes us a strong community, and it's something that's important to the community. It's also important to make us stand out and compared to other communities. So I think that's something. If you haven't seen it, please take a look. We've improved who has sat at Rivercrest Park and watched a softball or baseball game, and then with the sun beating down, and we need some shades there. If you haven't, lucky you. I have. It is hot and shade, so the shades will be a nice addition. We also have put more bike repair stations in. This is another example of just something. We put in one, and saw how people used it, and people did use it, and so now we put a second one in. And did anybody participate in the Great American Cleanup? That was this spring, and then there was another one this fall. 106 people participated, over 1,000 pounds of trash, which is both very disheartening and heartening. It's very heartening to see all the people come out. I participated both occasions to pick up trash, and to see how many people in the community care enough to go pick up trash. It's also disheartening to see how much junk people leave, but every little bit helps, and this would be an example of every little bit helps to make our parks nicer. Speaking of a park that really has, in the last 5 years, really is a partnership with the community, Rotary Park, the all-inclusive park was built several years ago. Then the pickleball courts, both of those are filled all the time. Who's used either the pickleball court or the all-inclusive playground? I won't ask the group which one they've used more, but it really is amazing how many kids are on there on any one occasion, and then the pickleball courts, how many people are on the pickleball courts. We just redid the tennis court last year, and we're applying for some grants, and we spoke to Rotary just last week and to build a crosswalk from the end of the driveway at Rivercrest Park on the other side to the Rotary Park. So if you've ever tried to cross right there by where the cars pull out, not exactly a safe scenario. And we know that that's something we want to address. That's something that I know that Rotary wants to address. So they have an annual fundraiser. The fundraising funds are going to be allocated towards that. So we've applied for some grant funding, and we hope that we'll be able to do that. They have other plans. They want to continue to expand the park, and we continue to work with them. There really is an example of community collaboration, where the community has said, we want this park to be an outstanding park. We want to contribute funds towards it. You need to help us, and we have helped. And so it really is a model for the region. This was one of the first inclusive parks in the region, and you probably have seen that. Bowling Green has one, Fremont has one, Toledo has several. So it really is a leader and another example of us demonstrating how the region and the community can be better. So that's also as a result of the community partnership with Rotary. We had a lot of events last year. There was lots of community feel-good events that affirm what we're doing is the right thing. It was the 25th year of the Farmers Market, and the Farmers Market has been and will continue to be a big success. We know that part of the reason for making downtown improvements is to keep downtown vibrant, and certainly every Thursday, if you've gone down to the farmer's market, you see how busy it is. You see how many people are down there with the food trucks and the farmers and all the different things. It really is a community event, and the CBB does a great job with it, and it's going to continue, and we want to be a part of that. We had a lot of kind of weather events or meteorological events. The solar eclipse was last year. It went off without a hitch, and that goes a lot to the planning of the police and utilities and Joe. There was lots of people came into town. Everybody had a great experience. There were lots of people at our parks who just kind of pulled off, either traveling and came to make sure that they could see it, or from the community and they wanted to be with the rest of the community to see it. And so there was kind of a nice event, and we did a lot of planning and a lot of preparation, and there were no problems, partly because there was a lot of preparation, a lot of planning. So it was really something amazing. It really was kind of a fun year last summer. You had the eclipse, and then you had the Northern Lights. We were kind of the hotbed of weather events. We also had our 40th Tree City USA. It's a really great event with the kids. The banners are up downtown. The kids really love it, and it's really something that has been a great collaboration with schools, and it's a really fun event, and the kids love it, and it's a great opportunity to kind of just pass on to the next generation and how important it is to be environmentally conscious and plant some trees. You can never plant enough trees. We also recognized Jim Leland. That was a very fun event. I will say two things about that. One, he hated every second of the attention we were giving him. I'll give him three things. Two, he already had a key to the city. He got it after when he was the coach, the manager of the Marlins, and they beat the then Cleveland Indians. And I pointed out that I was still bitter, and he said, "Don't be bitter at me, be bitter at your closer." He gave up 2 runs in the bottom of the seventh inning, bottom of the ninth inning. So yes, he's got a good point there. And then the third thing is, I introduced myself to Jim Leland. I'm Tom Mackin, the mayor of Perrysburg, and he was with his family and his wife, and his wife gets all excited because the mayor of this little kind of Ottawa Hills-like town in the city, surrounded by Pittsburgh, where they live, is Tom Mackin. So, take a picture, sends it to Tom Mackin, and I think we're related. We've talked several times since then. He's very nice. He's been the mayor for longer because he doesn't have term limits, and nobody wants the job. So, it's very nice. It was very fun. His wife was super excited to meet another Tom Mackin. So, in closing, I would just say I want to thank all of you for your attendance. I want to thank my wife Allison for putting up with 8 years of these reports and being mayor. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve. We're not throwing in the towel early. We're running through the tape and going to complete this year, hopefully, and set the groundwork for the next mayor to be successful and to accomplish a lot of things that we've started here. So happy to answer several easy questions. Anybody have any questions?
How big is Perrysburg City and how big is Perrysburg Township? And what was the combined population 50 years ago when I moved here?
I know, I'll ask for help, Nawan, I'll phone a friend. When I moved here in 1990, it was 12,000. It is now 30 years later, in the 2020 census, 25,000. So it's doubled in size in the city, in the township. This township's population is kind of fluctuating because the size of the township has changed. So I would guess 15 to 20-ish, plus or minus. We're going to Google right now. So it is substantially larger than it was. I would say 50 years ago is probably certainly under 10. we became a city in, '60s, so that was over 5,000 then, so. So yes, the community and region has continued to grow. Growth is, there's been a lot of discussion about that. Growth is relatively important growth is good. When new businesses are coming, one of the things they ask about is what is your growth? What's your population? What kind of community are you? They look at all those demographics. If you're shrinking or not growing, that's not a good sign for businesses. They also look at, a whole bunch of other factors, but if you're not growing, you still have costs, and those costs continue to go up, and you're going to pass those on to your residents, and so the cost of services per resident will go up. So there's lots of communities that can't grow, that have some certain structures, like Monique can't expand. Same with some of the communities near Cleveland, like Lakewood, they can't grow, and they're actually shrinking in size, like the city of Toledo. That has its own difficulties and problems that the city of Perrysburg, doesn't want to have to face, but I think isn't facing, because we put ourselves in a good position to be a place that welcomes people and supports businesses, schools, and other things traditionally.
I'd just like to thank the city and commend Robin Ballmer. City supports her ideas, and she really brought the idea of outdoor art.
She did. She's a whirlwind. I don't know if you know, Robin's about this tall, but she's a real dynamo and hard to say no to. But she has really demonstrated the value of both music in the market and public art, the value of those to the community. So, and I think they are a great addition. They make Perrysburg stand out. Anything that makes you stand out in this day and age is important.
So is the city growing because we have lots of vacant land available for development?
We do. Well, that's one of the things. Yeah, certainly. We have land that we're trying to get to be economic development. Like, for example, where ProMedica is, or where ProMedica just expanded. We also have properties that are clearly designed to be residential from the not just from the historic perspective, but also from the current use. For example, if you own a property near Whole Prairie and there's houses right there, you don't want to put smokestacks there. So what we've tried to do in our land use plan is set out how that's going to happen and grow. You can't, as a community, pull up the ladder and not let other people in. And I said this a number of times in a number of places. Who grew up in Perrysburg? Several of you. Who moved here to Perrysburg because of the schools? Who moved here? You don't have the answer, but you can. Who moved here because of the outstanding mayoral leadership? That's a big one. Sucking up doesn't work. So yes, people don't come here because of they come here because of the schools, they come here for the community, they come here for the downtown and the environment, and the things that we put in place to make a feel of community. So there's a balance there, and you're not allowed to pull up the ladder. You just can't do that. It doesn't make fiscally sense, because you then are just going to impact the value of your homes will decrease, the cost to you will increase. So you do have to try and balance it. That's what we're working on, How do you balance growth in a way that continues to make the community a vibrant place to live and someplace that's attractive to people, while not causing a bigger impact to the schools, which means diversify the tax base, which we've been working on very diligently. ProMedica, Mercy, all those just containers, those kind of things. Another part of that, outside of my control certainly, is Milton Township and Perrysburg Township grow. But there's also at the funding issue is certainly something that we've talked about internally within the city, and that is a state issue. It is something that we need to talk to our state reps about, and our state senators about, and our governor about, and other people, because that is really how funding is controlled. And it's been 30 years ago it was ruled unconstitutional. They've made some changes to that, but it's still not really sorted out how best to do that. So while that structure continues to shift the burden, really a lot of what's happened, it seems to me, is that there's been some burden shifting. The communities that can afford to fund their own schools, are being asked to fund their own schools. And unfortunately, success is being punished to some degree at the state level because we're being successful. We want to continue to work on that. We continue to talk to legislatures about that. But we also know we have to do a better job as a community to be trying to address these concerns by expanding our tax base, which we've been doing. We need to continue to do a better job of that. And I think that's something, I know we're working, Mark's here as a city council member, and he's running for the job, so we've been working with him to make sure we all know how we're going to do this going forward and how best to attract businesses. We also know that business is kind of a double-edged sword. If you, one of the things businesses ask when they're looking to come here is how do you support the schools? So we have a record of demonstrating that we've been supporting the schools. That's kind of in flux the last couple times, but I think that could have a serious detriment to attracting businesses if that's how the community is seen. So I think we have to all do a better job as elected officials and to get out the word as to what's the best for the community, and that's supporting the schools. And I would also say, we talk to the schools on a regular basis. We invited them to the land use development plan that we just did. They're at the table for the zoning code rewrite that we've been working on. That's going to be done this year. They have a seat at the table. We work with that leadership on a regular basis. Talk to school board members. We talk to the administration of the schools. There's an ongoing dialogue there. I think that's best. And I think that's something that we can continue to work on. But I think that there is a concerted effort to try and move forward together. Any other questions?
So what are your plans? Future?
I don't have any. I could ask that a lot. I'm not sure. My exact answer is I'm not sure. I got a little under 2 months to make Joe's life out. That's my immediate focus, pleasure, and that brings me much joy and pleasure. So we're going to do that. We are going to make sure these things are all put in place. I don't want to kind of, phone in the last year of my administration. I think we've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot. There's a lot that still needs to be done, and we're going to do that. We'll see what comes next when it's time to worry about what's next.
I just wanted to say, I personally really appreciate your cool-headedness in a time of great upheaval, and I always felt like Harrisburg was in good hands. So,
well, thank you very much. That's probably because I didn't know what was going on. Appreciate this. Any other questions?
Is there any plans to pave down there at Orleans Park where you go down and boat launch and all that? I mean, that's kind of a mess. It's a lot of potholes and
It's kind of a mess. We're parked for the fishing back there.
Yeah.
That's part about, we did a long-term plan for the park, and we're in stages. We're doing a multi-use plan. That isn't going to happen tomorrow or in the next year. But I agree that there's kind of, as we improve the park, that's certainly something that needs to be addressed for that. Anything else?
My family moved here in 1971, and we've never been sorry.
That's the best endorsement ever. So I appreciate that, Penny. I think, and hopefully that's what everybody feels. It's a good investment from their house. It's a good investment for the family. It's been a good investment for them to be at a place that they can call home. So hopefully, I'm just a steward of that. Hopefully these 8 years haven't set us back too much, and we'll be ready to move forward and keep moving forward. So thank you very much.